I'm here today to talk about everything that I made in the month of February. I had grand plans for February. Funnily enough, most of them didn't get completed, but some of them did, and I actually count February as a huge success, especially as I was quite ill for the last sort of 10 days of it. Well, no, 5 days of it and then a week of March. First up, I was planning on making all of my slopers in February. The moulages, the basic blocks, the body blueprint, the thing that you use to then draft new patterns from. I've managed to get my skirt and my bodice sloper done, and I haven't moved on to the sleeve or the trousers yet, but I will be doing that. I am super pleased with how both of them have come out, and there is an entire video about the process that you can watch here. The beginning of it was very kind of, oh my gosh, what am I doing? This isn't going to work. This doesn't look right. But when I put that moulage on for the first time, other than the shoulders, I think you can see in my reaction in the video, I was genuinely amazed that I had drafted on paper something that fitted my 3D body so well, apart from obviously the shoulders. I am still not 100% sure that I've got the arm side right, which is another reason I'm dragging my heels on the sleeve, but that sloper, or that moulage, turned into a sloper, which turned into a grown on sleeve bodice, which has turned into this dress. Now this is the second iteration. You can see the first one here. The first one I ended up with a few fit issues, and I went back and I made the changes to the paper pattern, cut this one out, and genuinely this is sewn up with the correct seam allowance the entire way up and down, and I love it. I did experiment with how I finished the inside of this dress, and I don't like the hem, so and I also actually don't like the back of this dress. I much prefer the print placement on this one, so I'm going to keep this one, and I'm actually going to donate this one. I did want to make this second one up in this inexpensive fabric that was ideal for the type of garment it is, because this has a little bit of stretch in it, although I've lined it with a completely non-stretchy fabric and it's still very comfortable to sit in, which is great. I did also use this dress to demonstrate how I go about pattern matching large prints like this. Thankfully had enough fabric and print left to do that, so I did manage to get a short video out of that as well. I am over the moon happy with how these dresses have come out, so much so that I have spent a very long time drafting this pattern. Now the grey areas are going to be like a red shiny latexy holographic fabric that I have, and the white areas are going to be red cotton sateen. I drafted the pattern, I cut everything out and added seam allowance to everything. I've actually cut the fabric out, and I did that on the Sunday that I did the hangout where I sounded really ill, and I fully intended to come down the next day and start sewing that dress, and I've been in bed ever since, and that was like nearly 2 weeks ago. Yeah, Panini got me good, but I'm feeling much better now, which is awesome. As I said at the beginning of this video, I had grand plans for February. I wanted to get everything done, and I have managed to do a fair amount. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 things sewn, although I am including some of the muslins that I've done. So the first thing I did was the skirt sloper, then the bodice sloper, then I wanted a palette cleanser, so I went on and made myself a by hand London and a top out of the leftover red viscose fabric that I got from Guthrie and Ghani. I love how this has turned out, and I really love it with that red skirt and the red heels. I don't know why I don't wear more bright red, and I am now, every single fabric that I'm looking at, I'm like, but it's not bright red. I need that. Do I need that? I love how this turned out, but as you guys know, I retraced my Anna top pattern, bodice pattern, and then made changes from that because I had put on a lot of weight from my original one, and this top is actually a little bit big on me, which is kind of nice, and it doesn't really show, and I can totally get away with wearing it as is, so I'm not going to not wear it. But the skirt is huge. The skirt, I had to put a belt on with it, because otherwise the skirt wouldn't have sat up at my waist. I've got a few like that, so I'm going to put those away into a box for future me, because you never know, things change. But I am going to remake that red denim skirt because I love that entire look and I really want to wear that outfit because it's a good outfit. So that was the successful make from this month. I then went on to make up a pair of my jogging bottoms because I have 3 that are so well used and so bobbly that they just kind of look tatty. They're perfectly fine to wear, but they're just not very crisp looking, and I've tried debubbling them. They look loved and lived in, let's say. So I bought this Ponte style. It's slightly lighter weight than Ponte, is how they describe it, from Lady McElroy or the Sherwoods in their remnant 50% off remnant sale at Christmas. I tested out the stretch and I thought there was going to be enough stretch in it, so made up the trousers, sewed the waistband, and that thing wouldn't go over my thigh, let alone both of my thighs, and it was just like, I was going to just put the project into the dog bed stuffing bin, and then I decided no, let's try and be logical about this. So I measured out the width of the top of the trousers and cut a waistband out that would fit that would go over my hips. And then I put elastic in them because I always put elastic in those trousers anyway. And it looks awful. It looks really thick and bulky, and it's just the jogging bottoms that I usually wear actually kind of very much cinch in my waist, and these ones just make me look bigger. So those have gone into a bag of things for my friend because she will probably wear them as is with baggy jumpers over the top and think that they're wonderful and comfy. And not that they're not, it's just they're not for me. So that was a bit of a fail. I was a little bit upset about that, especially as that fabric was beautiful and could have made a really nice dress. And Mum really wanted it for a really nice dress, although I'm glad I didn't let Mum have it because for the type of dress that she was going to make, I don't think it would have had enough stretch in it either, and I think it was the kind of dress that, whilst it was a stretchy material, still needed a zip in the back. Yeah, that was a bit of a fail. Bit sad about that one, but never mind. I'm on the hunt for more fabric to make smart jogging bottoms out of so that I have some that are decent. So I'm trying to do this in kind of like an order. So the next thing that I made was this dress, which I've already talked about. Then I decided that I wanted to fix my dressing gown. I made this beautiful dressing gown from a vintage pattern in 2016, I think it was, and I've done a whole video about my rescuing of it. Now I had just at the time learned about full bust adjustments, so I did one, and the full bust adjustment dart ended up here in like, it was pointless. I mean, it had a point, but you know, like it didn't do what I needed it to do. I'd fudged that thing together. It was one of the pattern, it was the first vintage pattern that I'd worked with, and it was the one where, I think I mentioned this in the Halston skirt video, that I ended up with the back neck facing left over, and I was just like, I could not work how that thing went in, so I just left it off and finished it all with bias binding on the inside. I'd made a few errors. I'd put pockets in and not known how to finish them, and then the bodice ended up being like 2 inches smaller than the skirt, so I put a tie on so that it would fudge together, and then that made the bodice too long. So I did a whole video about how I was going to fix this thing, because that fabric is expensive, and I used a lot of that fabric making this dressing gown because it's also a directional print, and I made sure that all of the pads were going the same way. I'm really glad that I fixed that. I'm so glad that I fixed that. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's lined with a cotton flannel, so it's really nice and fluffy on the inside, but it's silk, well, cotton silk, but silk on the outside, so it also looks really fancy. So yeah, I am super pleased with how that one has come out, and I'm really glad that I think it took me about 3 or 4 hours one afternoon to get that done. It was a really random project that I think because it'd been hanging on the back of my door for so long, it was just like a piece of art, and then it was like, you know what, I could wear that, let's fix it. So I'm really glad that I did that one. Very pleased with how that's turned out. Then I took all of the different alterations that I needed to make to this dress and applied it to the paper pattern to make this dress. Again, really pleased with how this one has come out. I know I'm not going to keep this one because I don't like the print placement on the back of this as much as I do on that one, but I'm very glad that I've got 2 dresses out of the 5 meters of fabric I had to experiment with. So that fabric has served its purpose. I really like this dress, and as you know, there will be at least 4 more because I've bought fancy fabrics to make at least 4 more. Probably more than that, if we're being honest. Lots and lots of wiggle dresses in your future. Well, mine too, but yeah, you'll be seeing lots and lots of wiggle dresses. Then the final 2 things that I made in February are the hemispheric coat muslin and then this Scout capelet from Gertie as well, which I want to make out of the same fabric as the hemispheric coat. Put magnets, sew magnets into it so that they attach to each other, kind of like this area. I'm really pleased with how both of those have turned out. I think the capelet is perfect. It's the right length. I might shorten it a tiny bit because I want to put faux fur around the bottom edge of the cape, but I do really like how it sits on the shoulders. I like the hood. The hood's going to have faux fur around it as well. I just think it's a cute little thing, and it's one of the easier projects from Charm Patterns, and I've got quite a lot of difficult and involved projects from Charm in my Make 9, so I wanted one of the easier ones in there as well. So I thought that this is something I've always wanted to do. I have a very limited amount of fabric. I'm going to be using a navy wool coating. I cut out the exact amount of muslin that I have, or calico, as I have of wool. I think I'm going to have more than enough. They're the same width. Whilst I have to cut some of the hemispheric pieces out set on a single layer because they're asymmetric because of the way that it closes at the front with the lap over for the zip. I do think I'm going to have more than enough of the wool to cut both the capelet and the hemispheric coat out. The only change I'm going to make to the hemispheric coat is I'm going to just nip in the back seam a little bit. It is very straight up and down. I love how it looks from the front and the sides. The shaping is there for me, but at the back I do have somewhat of a sway back, so I'm going to make a very small adjustment to that centre back seam just to give a little bit more shaping there and take out some of the excess around the waist, because I do have a big difference between my waist and my hips. I still want to be able to wear the coat over things, but I still want it to have some shape in it. So that was everything that I got sewn in February. Not as much as I'd hoped for. I did get my Carolyn pyjamas cut out. I've got my red wiggle dress cut out. I have the McCalls 7537 dress cut out. And then obviously I've still got my poor 9076 cut out of this navy floral viscose, fruity viscose fabric. So I have a lot of projects still sat there waiting to be done. I didn't get to the Rita blouse either, so I have a lot of work to do in March, especially as it's now the 8th of March and I'm only just starting that work. But lots of big projects to look forward to, lots of really exciting ones to try, and lots of ones that are already cut out and that just need to be sewn up. So I think March is going to be quite an exciting month. But I will be doing a full March plans and fabric haul for you any minute now, so you should be seeing that tomorrow. Let me know in the comments down below which of my makes from February is your favourite. I do think it is this wiggle dress. I really, really like the red top. I love that fabric. I can't wait to see the dress. And I am so over the moon with how the slopers have come out, and I think the muslins have come out really, really well as well. But I do think this dress is a bit of a revelation for me, because it was just like, I drafted that from my measurements and it fits. So yeah, I think that's possibly my favourite. If you've enjoyed this video, you might want to check out this lookbook here.